Hello, my name is Chelsea Zabowski, a health informatics graduate student at George Mason University. This presentation on probability and distributions using CMS Hospital Compare data was prepared as part of the HAP 725 course during the fall 2019 semester taught by Professor Alemi at George Mason University, Department of Health Administration Policy. The problem we'll be tackling today is how to calculate the average rate and standard deviation of hip and knee replacement complications across all hospitals. Our first step is to go to the Hospital Compare website. You can type in the address shown on the screen or simply type in keywords Hospital Compare into any search engine to find it. Once you're on the Hospital Compare site, we're going to look for the Hospital Complications dataset. You can do this by searching the keywords Complications and Hospital in the search bar. The dataset is named Complications and Deaths Hospital. Click on it once you've found it to go to the dataset page. Once we get to the dataset page, we can see some basic info about the data. Since we're going to be doing our calculations in Microsoft Excel, we are especially interested in the number of rows and columns. Excel cuts off the data a little after 1,000,000 rows, so we want to make sure that our dataset is under that limit, which in this case, luckily it is. We can also preview the data prior to downloading on this page. In any data analysis project, it's important to familiarize yourself with the variables and refer to the data dictionary if you have any questions. Once we've explored the data a little bit, we can go ahead and export it. Go up to the top and click on Export and then CSV for Excel. After you've downloaded it, find the file and go ahead and open it. Make sure that you have all 19 columns and 91,890 rows. For this question, we are only comparing scores for hip and knee replacement patients, so we're going to go to the Measure Name field and filter by rate of complications for hip and knee replacement patients. Per CMS's definition, the score is the hospital's risk-adjusted complication rate. The risk is adjusted to account for differences in hospital patient characteristics and account for differences in measurement reliability between large and small hospitals. You do not need to do additional math to calculate rates because the score attribute is the risk-adjusted rate for each hospital. If you look through the filter in the score column, you can see rates range from 1.3 to 11. We don't want to include hospitals that don't have a score for hip and knee replacement complications. You can do this by unchecking the Not Available option under the filter in the score column. For the sake of preserving my original dataset and working with a cleaned file, I copied over this filtered dataset to a new tab in Excel which I named Hip Knee Replacement Scores. As you can see, this new tab only has the hip and knee measures and only has hospitals which have a hip and knee score. We can now do some math. First, we'll calculate the average by running a simple average function on the score column. As you can see, the average score for hip and knee replacement complications across all hospitals that receive a score is around 2.59. We're going to do a similar formula to find the standard deviation of hip and knee scores. Standard deviation is the measure of how spread out your numbers are. For the hip and knee scores, you can see that we have a standard deviation of around 0.54. Visualizing our data will also help us in our analysis. For question 3, we're going to create a histogram to help us out. For the sake of simplicity, let's remove all columns except the hospital name and the score columns. Next, select both columns and all 2,746 rows. Next, on the Insert tab in the Charts section, click on the blue histogram button and select the histogram chart to the left. Our histogram is going to look a little crazy, but not to worry, we're going to adjust it. Right-click on the horizontal axis and select Format Axis. The default bin size is 0.14. To reduce the number of bins, I bumped it up to 0.5. You can adjust this number to whatever you think is appropriate for your own visualization. Notice how this automatically adjusts the vertical axis, which is the count of observations within that bin. The bigger the bin size, the more observations will fall within them. The last thing to do is make our chart a little prettier. We can change the chart title, add axis titles, and display a legend. To change the title, double-click and retype a new name. I just named my chart Histogram for right now. To add a vertical and horizontal axis title, go to the Chart Design tab and select Axis Titles. We can add other chart elements using that same Chart Design tab. I added data labels, increased the font size, and changed the style of my histogram chart. This concludes my presentation on probability and distributions using Hospital Compare data. Thank you so much for your time.